No, you are not stuck in a Groundhog Day style time loop. Haason Reddick has demanded a trade again. Welcome to Locked On NFL.
You are Locked On NFL, your daily NFL podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome in to the Locked On NFL podcast. It's Tuesday. That means you got me. I'm Luke Braun. I cover the Vikings for the Locked On Network here with Lauren Cox, covers the Bears for the Locked On Network. And yes, we cover two teams with two rookie QBs. We will brag about our rookie QB debuts and talk about all the rest of them, as well as some initial impressions of the new kickoff rules, some Jets drama beyond what we will start with. We're going to get at the Jets again later, but first, the big thing you probably heard of, Haason Reddick has demanded a trade. If you don't remember, he was looking for a new contract with Philadelphia. Philadelphia decided that they didn't want to go into that, so they would rather trade him away. They traded him to the Jets for, I believe, a second and a third or something conditional in there. I can get the exact there for you in a moment, but whatever it was significant trade capital with the assumption that the Jets would sign him to the new deal that he wanted. The Jets had an offer on the table, this is according to Jordan Schultz. The Jets had an offer on the table as part of that trade. That offer wasn't good enough for Haason Reddick, but the teams decided to go through with the trade anyways, and the Jets have essentially left things to stand right there. Haason Reddick is in a holdout. Now it's been too long, and he's saying, please trade me. The Jets have publicly stated that they do not intend to trade him. This whole thing has gotten very ugly, Lauren.
Yeah, it's a conditional third-round pick that can become a second-round pick based on how things play out, and we're certainly not playing out towards that becoming a second-round pick as it stands right now. You'd think at some point, like, teams would learn not to make trades with Howie Roseman from the Eagles because he just always seems to find a way to come out on the other side. And it's kind of like we used to say that about Bill Belichick when they would let players go from the Patriots. It's like the Patriots,
it's like something's wrong with them. Yeah.
Yeah. Like
this is such an unforced thing though. Like the Eagles, I feel like got what is fair enough compensation, right? A day 2 pick of some kind for a starting edge rusher. Okay. Like they lose an edge rusher, they get a draft pick, and then that's fine. And was that no, that's a pick next year because it's conditional. So like that feels like fair compensation. It's and the Jets, had they signed Haason Reddick, I probably would have said, great, good job building your defense, but you're just not going to get it. And you're sure as heck aren't going to get a day 2 pick now that he's seen as such a headache that it's very clear that you messed up. You have no leverage in a trade. So if you do end up having to trade him, you're just losing draft capital for nothing.
Yeah. I mean, he really doesn't have any leverage, right? You could say, well, if the Jets, if without him, the Jets have no pass rush. So, that's his leverage. They really need him to play. And it's like, yeah, but if they traded him away, they still wouldn't have that pass rush. So they don't gain what they miss with him by trading him away. So like the only thing that the Jets can do is continue to try to negotiate a contract here and hope that the fines that keep adding up for Haason Reddick, I mean, he's lost over $1 million+ at this point from just not showing up to training camp. Like eventually they're thinking he's going to have to show up and stop taking those losses in the bank account eventually, because the Jets have said, we're not going to negotiate with him until he's in the building. And he says, I'm not coming in the building until I get a new contract. So somebody's got to give there. And I think the Jets are saying, all right,
can we meet at a Starbucks then? Like that feels like a really bad.
Get his agent in the building, I think is the
right.
idea.
Like this is why I'm a big fan of the hold in. I think that's a great balance between like, you're not getting hurt. You're doing what's right for you. You're, exacting leverage upon the team, and maybe one of the only ways a player has to exact leverage on a team. But at the same time, there's still an air of good faith to it. It's still not a contentious thing. It's just, hey, business is business. I'm going to pull my levers, you pull your levers, and that's kind of that. So I like the hold in. The decision not to is a little bit confrontational. It's a little like this relationship is not off on the right foot, and like are you now off this vibe, off of this kind of attitude and this relationship that is already soured. You either have to basically pony up for a multi-year deal with probably significant guarantees. Like you got to commit to this guy that has pissed you off, or trade him for pennies on the dollar.
And I feel like the Jets are in a spot where like you can't just trade him for pennies on the dollar, right? I mean, you have to find some way to make this work. You can't eat that big of a loss and then also leave such a gaping hole in your pass rush. Because like this was the whole crux of their plan to bolster the front end of this defense last season. Like without him, you got, Jermaine Johnson and Will McDonald, like, yeah, first round picks, but not necessarily guys who have dominated and can take over a pass rush the way that Haason Reddick can be that, consistent double-digit sack guy. Like there's a pretty big hole here without Reddick. And I don't know, is there a way to do something a little bit more short-term to protect yourself financially so you're not locked into 4 or 5 years if this continues to be messy? It just feels like somewhere along the way, somebody's got to just kind of eat it a little bit. And I think Haason Reddick's going to have to at some point when these fines keep adding up. But if the Jets start losing games, they're going to get desperate too.
Yeah. So here's the thing with losing him for the Jets is that I actually kind of like the young talent that's maybe coming up here with Jermaine Johnson and Will McDonald out there on the edge. I imagine those would be, and like, okay, those are 2 first-round picks you got out there. All right, time for them to step up, right? Time for them to take a step forward. But maybe part of the reason that Joe Douglas is dragging his feet so much is, well, we do kind of have young guys. But if that's the case, why did you do the thing? Yeah. Before the draft and everything too. So yeah, I like the Jets defensive roster a lot. Even without Haason Reddick, you still have Quinnen Williams, you still have Javon Kinlaw, you still have guys like Lecky Fotu, and even like Tack McKinley, whatever you can get out of him. You still have interesting players and depth at that position, but it's like there's just no way to justify the value of this without essentially going to Haason Reddick with your tail between your legs saying, all right, we'll come up to your contract. I mean, like, I feel like he's kind of got him over a barrel.
But I mean, at some point, Haason Reddick's sitting there saying, listen, you guys are all in on Aaron Rodgers and trying to win this year. Like, you want to win this year? Let me be there. I'll be a part of that. You just got to pay me. Like, I'm happy to do it. Like, he came when he was traded to the Jets. He had a nice press conference, was happy to be there. Want to be a part of it.
With the understanding that there would be more contract negotiations, and then there just weren't. So like, you lied to him.
Well, that's, again, the magic of Joe Douglas in the GM role there. Like that certainly adds a lot of fuel to the fire for Jets fans who haven't been super happy with that regime.
Yeah, I honestly, like, Joe Douglas has we'll say had some missteps. Where the roster is at though is at this very complete place where the Jets essentially expect to be a Super Bowl contender. And regardless of if you agree or not about like their futures with Aaron Rodgers, the Jets and the Jets world, it's been communicated to Jets fans that this is it. This is the build. This is what we win a Super Bowl with. So if this thing goes belly up because there's a locker room controversy and because Haason Reddick leaves and you don't want to do it anymore and Aaron Rodgers is 41, like if this thing goes belly up and you're 7-10, I kind of think that everyone is gone. And maybe even somebody who doesn't deserve it, like Robert Saleh, who I think has done a perfectly fine job, might just kind of get thrown out with the bathwater and you just sweep this whole thing and start from scratch again, which I know is maybe the last thing Jets fans want to hear.
Yeah, eventually they kind of get beaten down and used to it, right? But it's tough because
you would know, right?
They have so much hope this year, though, right? You know what I mean? Like, this is a full season of Aaron Rodgers might be the best quarterback in Jets history. Like, if you could just,
yeah. Well, we'll see what he's got in the tank.
Like, how far apart are the Jets and Haason Reddick really? I mean, like, is this about $2 or $3 million a year? Like, if you're the Jets, at some point you just say, all right, screw it. Here's because the public doesn't know exactly how, you said come back with their tail between their legs. Like, the only people that would know that are the agent and Haason Reddick, and it's not going to come out to the world of like exactly how much the Jets capitulated there. Like, at some point you traded for him because you believed in him. You gave up a premium draft pick for him. Are you going to hem and haw over a couple $1 million, or is there something bigger here? Is it guaranteed structures? I mean, is it something that's really that much of a deal breaker, or are they playing it kind of tight with a couple $1 million here, there a year on a contract? Like, that's what we need to know.
My best guess is that it's about like, it's probably like about guarantee structure is usually the sticking point, and in terms of both like how much is guaranteed and how long the contract is guaranteed for, a 2-year deal with a bunch of funny money on the end of it, or is that third year like not really cuttable? Can we put rolling incentives in it or rolling guarantees in it and stuff like that? Those kind of structure details, I think, are the kinds of things that can be the difference, in tens of millions of dollars, depending on how things work out and security for the player and all that. We're not done with you, Jets. We're not done making Jets fans angry at us. But there are a whole bunch of much younger QBs, half the age of Aaron Rodgers, that are worth talking about, who all had their preseason debuts. So we're going to dive into that coming up next on Locked On NFL.
This episode of Locked On NFL is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. We're talking exhaust kits, roof racks, superchargers, LED headlights, and more. So whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your vehicle, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's guaranteed fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers.
Thanks so much for making Locked On NFL your first listen of the day, each and every day, Monday through Friday. We appreciate you all so much. When you're done here, I know you have your fantasy draft coming up. I know you're looking for an edge. So go check out Locked On Fantasy Football. Vinny Iyer's got you covered. Next up on Locked On NFL, Lauren, you and I cover daily a couple of rookie quarterbacks. How you feeling? How'd things? Let's start with how you feeling about Caleb Williams? You doing all right over there? Are things vibing a little bit?
Yeah, it's been more of an effort of like, hey, can we tamp things down a little bit? Can we slow
yeah,
down?
Right. You're like, this is getting too good.
Yeah, like, listen, like, very strong preseason performance, but like preseason performance, first game. No game plan. Like there's not a lot you can, you can nitpick some things about Caleb Williams' performance, but it wasn't, it was everything you wanted to and hoped for, but like it was 7 pass attempts, and in the first quarter of a preseason game where they're not game planning against him. I don't think the Bills defense was 100% healthy. They weren't using Von Miller and some of their other, starting caliber players out there, like the veterans and stuff. So we can be really excited about it for good reason and feel like it's the foundation that you wanted to see built on in the preseason debut, and not hand him the MVP trophy and a Lombardi as well.
And yeah, maybe that's where this discussion goes, because I'm feeling the same way about my guy with JJ McCarthy. We're pretty excited over in Minnesota about what he did. He got off to a shaky start, threw an interception on his first drive, bounced back, showed that kind of mistake didn't get in his head. He kind of settled down, and coming out of the other end of the half, he was slicing and dicing, playing great football. And so you go, oh, great. All right. Learning experience. And Caleb Williams is going to be the week 1 starter. We already know that. And JJ McCarthy is not. So they're both kind of on the track they're supposed to be.
How settled is that? I know that the Vikings,
it's very settled. It's very settled.
But like, I think there's a lot of people that go, yeah, sure, you're going to put it in the hands of Sam Darnold, but that's like, you think that's really locked in? Yeah. There's no way JJ McCarthy starts week 1?
Yeah, the only people incredulous about that are people who don't follow the Vikings specifically. Like only national people are like, well, oh God, it's just Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold has had a fantastic camp. He played very well in that preseason game. I think he put more distance between him and JJ McCarthy, if there is any kind of battle in the formal sense. I think he widened the gap in that preseason game. He played nearly flawless football. And they're ready to kind of roll with him for as long as they need. And JJ McCarthy, for as exciting as this is my thing with him, is like, as exciting as he was, here's this problem, here's that problem, here's that problem. There's work to do yet. Let's not throw him in before he's ready just because he's the draft pick. But if you look at the situations elsewhere, Jaden Daniels seemed to have a fine debut, but similarly, it was very small sample. Drake May, weirdly small sample. We got quite a bit of, who was it that played more?
Joe Milton
yeah, Joe Milton. That's it. Yeah. Joe Milton outplaying Drake May. And there have been reports in Patriots camp that's been happening in camp as well, which is crazy because Joe Milton was supposed to be even rawer than Drake May. And from my eye, from the highlights I've seen, still might be. It's not pretty. It's just a bazooka. So I guess let's go to that then with the Patriots. Should there be a panic button here? The Patriots are like on the list for me this year. They got this Matt Judon thing going on. Like, come on, get it together and play your rookie for a little bit more. It's a preseason. Get him some snaps.
Yeah, it's hard to hit the panic button after one preseason game. But at the same time, like, it's definitely a red flag, right? Like, he gets 3 pass attempts and 3 handoffs, I think, is all he got in that game. And obviously, not part of the starting lineup or anything there. So it's not like, you just give him a couple snaps and then sit him down because you're protecting him for the regular season or whatever. Like, Jacoby Brissett's plan A there. So again, it's New England always is weird. Even in the post Belichick era, it's hard to like to feel like you really know exactly what the plan is or what they're doing there. But it's definitely like red flag, but not panic button yet. Like somewhere on the panic meter, it's like in 3/4 approaching panic time, but like still ready to slow down a little bit there. And I think part of it's added that, people got really excited about Joe Milton's cannon. And if that had just been Bailey Zappi playing mediocre football, then, maybe this wouldn't be as big of a thing. But now it's like, oh, well, Joe Milton made some plays, so why isn't this kid making bigger plays?
It's not just that, he had a small preseason debut and like overreacting to that. It's everything coming out of New England about him. It's that the reports in the Boston Globe that they're getting worried all off the bat. There is this thing that nobody in the league will admit, but people who have like retired and will talk about it later, or who will talk about it anonymously, go like, yeah, everyone has had that year where your first round draft pick comes in, he's totally chugs butt, and it's immediately clear he's a bust, and everybody knows it, and you just kind of have to go say the right things for 3 years, and you go, oh no, we missed on this guy. Sometimes that, I'm not saying that happened with Drake May or anything. We don't know. We won't know until well in hindsight, you and I. But I don't know. I have seen, we both have been intimately familiar with teams covering a draft pick that is not working out. And it looks a lot like this, where you go, oh no, the guy is, lower on the depth chart than he should be, and less ready than he should be, and behind where he should. Oh my God, he had such a catastrophic day today, but it's okay. It's just the camp. Don't overreact yet, but it's all bad news. I don't know. It freaks me out a little bit. And then you have Penix and Nix. Those are the other 2 first-round quarterbacks. Bo Nix had this like very efficient, but very kind of reserved offense for him. It was a lot of quick game and a lot of kind of, it was very similar to what it was at Oregon, where it was all very properly executed, unsexy quarterbacking. But hey, there was a touchdown at the end of it, so that can work. And then Michael Penix, I didn't get to see a lot of Michael Penix. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would think like what the Broncos did for Bo Nix is what I would have liked to see the Patriots do for Drake May, right? Like if he's struggling at training camp practices and stuff, play him more and give him some of these kind of
run stick 4 times and get him like under a line, so he can get through a huddle. Like, yeah,
let's make it easy for him and build some of that confidence that way as well. Like I thought that would have been the way to go about it, but alas, that's not how the Patriots are doing it. So we'll see how that goes. Penix, I've seen some clips of, but it's nice that he got to get the start. They're not playing Kirk Cousins in the preseason, took some nice shots downfield, connected on at least one of them. And like, I love the aggressiveness of Penix. Like, I feel like in the preseason,
he's always been the Bomba guy.
Yeah. Well, and like in the preseason, right. It's usually like we were just talking about with Bo Nix, and even like Caleb Williams, like didn't try much in terms of like super tight window kind of, take a shot downfield kind of plays. Exactly. I mean, he hit some open guys at the intermediate and deeper levels, but like Penix was like, oh, press coverage, I'm going yard. Like kind of like Jaden Daniels' throw too, the big one down the sideline. It's like, I like that he says, you know what, we could play this super vanilla check down easy. Don't worry about the results, but hey, I'm not going to start this season. So why not let it rip a little bit? And I was glad to see that.
I think what we can take away from this, you and I, Lauren, is that our rookies had the best days, and that, great things are coming for our franchises, but not for the other ones.
You played with the backups against other backups. My rookie played with the starters against other starters. So,
no, they had all the starters up there. The Raiders played their starters for a while, so we had that too. There's a lot to be excited about, and I think everybody, even the Patriots, can still be excited on at least the idea of Drake May, which like I loved. I mean, he was my QB1 coming out, so I'm certainly not ready to give up on him. I'm just getting worried about what I'm hearing out of there. The wind is blowing cold.
Milton, so you got another option just in case.
They got Joe Milton. If Joe Milton is better than Drake May, I might have to retire from this industry. I might have no choice but to get run out with pitchforks and torches from every Tennessee Volunteers fan in the land. I'll never be able to step foot in this state again. Okay.
Joe Milton at the Senior Bowl, I think you'll be all right. But,
I'm holding my breath. Yike and Like coming up next on the Locked On NFL podcast.
This episode of the Locked On NFL podcast is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality candidates that are right for the role. And that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs, because LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. I'm on LinkedIn. Luke's on LinkedIn. If you're not on LinkedIn, I know a lot of your friends, family members, and coworkers are all part of LinkedIn. So it helps you hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else, including those who aren't actively looking for a new job, but hey, they might be open for the perfect role if the right thing becomes available to them. In any given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. So hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Moving right along, it's time for my favorite part of the week. On Tuesday here on the Locked On NFL podcast, time for Yike and Like, something we liked from the week in the world of football or maybe grander sports, and something that made us say one singular yike. I'm going to get us started here, Lauren. One thing that I liked, the debut of the new kickoff rules. I think I've used this as my like for like 3 different weeks because I just love it. I loved it in the XFL and I love it now because here's what we're going to do. Like, a lot of people are complaining about the new kickoff rules, and I honestly think it's just because it looks different and we're not used to it, and they're like, it's weird. We don't like change. But here's the pitch. There's going to be a return basically every time. You're very rarely going to get true touchbacks. There's some confusion. It's the preseason. We had this weird snafu in the Chiefs-Jags game about, like, there was one where he recovered it on the one, but his foot was in the end zone. They called it a safety, like this weird kind of confusion on the rule. Kinks to iron out, things that we as a fan base need to get familiar with. But by like game 2, you're going to be used to it. And the world of, all right, there was a score. Now I've got it. They're going to go to commercial, and then they're going to kick the extra point, and then they're going to go to commercial, and then they're going to watch the kickoff, and then they're going to go to commercial, and then and that you don't have to watch any of that because you don't really have to watch the extra point. You don't really have to watch the kickoff. Now you kind of have to watch the kickoff. I think that's great. I think that's awesome. And according to Sam Schwartzstein, who is the father of this idea, and came up with it when it first debuted in 2020 in the XFL, he charted a lot of these things. A guy named Sean Syed Schemes, which is a great Twitter follow, a great writer over at Sumer Sports, has also been looking at kickoff schemes and stuff. And it seems like inside zone is the way to go. If you're running a lot of inside zone, you're doing good. This is just running plays now. We just start the game with a running play. That's so much better than like a kickoff and 5 minutes of commercials on either side of it. How are people mad about this? I love it.
Yeah, and I think on top of that, we haven't seen the full repertoire of what special teams coaches are going to do with it either.
Oh, you're weird reverses. Yeah.
And maybe like you're going to maybe pull blockers from one side to the other. Like, I think we're going to see the scheme of kickoffs change, or at least they're going to experiment a lot more in the regular season. I think a year from now, we'll kind of get back to original kickoffs where, okay, everyone kind of runs the same general things. But I think this is going to be the year of like special teams coordinator tinkers in the film room and like comes up with a new way to try a kick return, and maybe it'll work and something will be like revolutionary and cool, or maybe it won't. But I think we're going to get to see a lot of different wrinkles in the kick return that we just aren't seeing in the preseason because no one wants to put that on tape just yet. And they want their guys to do basic blocking, basic coverage, because I just want to see, can you block and can you tackle? Are you going to make my 53-man roster?
Yeah, everyone's like completely insane special teams coordinator is in the lab right now, mixing, I don't know, stuff they're not supposed to mix. Lauren, what's your like of the week? Let's keep it positive for now.
Yeah, I gotta put some asterisks on this because when I start, it's gonna be like, wait a minute. But like, my like of the week is that we're about to get a bunch of new information on Aaron Rodgers in the new book by Ian O'Connor. I can't remember what it's called, but he's been doing interviews and stuff, and the book comes out, I think, later this week or certainly later this month. And we're getting like little snippets of like, okay, how Rodgers handled the vaccination and stuff, but we're going to get a bunch of details on his relationship with Mike McCarthy, his relationship with his family. I mean, Rodgers has been a guy who is one of the most fascinating figures in the NFL, if not, polarizing and hard to like a lot of the time, but like he's been very effective at controlling his own narrative and not giving a lot of information out to the media, not letting a lot of people in, not really controlling exactly what he says so that we only really hear his perspective and don't get much else. But this book, he sat down for an interview, they got behind the scenes, and we're going to get a bunch of details about a bunch of stuff I think we've all been wondering about for the last decade of Aaron Rodgers' career, and it's all coming at this really critical time. I think we're going to learn a lot and finally get some good info on something that is just, I know for you and I, Luke, it's been really a thorn in our side and a fascinating thing to watch from pretty nearby.
Yeah, I don't need to know anything more about what's going on in Aaron Rodgers' brain. I think that can become more and more of a private thing between him and whatever's left of his estranged family. My yike of the week is going to Pro Football Focus. Rough couple weeks that they have had with Steve Palazzolo and Sam Monson leaving to write for, I believe, 33rd Team, and take their incredibly successful podcasting with them. There was a long sort of post-mortem, I guess you would say, on the entire PFF experiment written by Arif Hassan, mutual enemy of ours, who wrote on his Substack a big long thing about PFF. And the beginning of it, a lot of citing a lot from Matthew Collar, who covers the Vikings, who wrote a whole book on PFF and the story of PFF, talking a lot to Neil Hornsby and Chris Collinsworth and all the people that started it, and the vision and some of the things that went wrong. And just another example of a primarily digital media company. They've got their data side, that's a digital data company, but really an internet company, right? A digital company that's new and fledgling and on the cutting edge, getting bought out by people that didn't understand it and didn't understand how to nurture it, and then tore it apart from the seams. This happens all the time. This happens in other industries I'm more familiar with from a past life. I have seen this pattern so many times. And if you've been wondering why, the PFF Twitter account is basically indistinguishable from the Bleacher Report Twitter account, if the media that they've been putting out, the articles that they've been putting out feel a little bit less unique, back in the days of 2015, 2016, when PFF really felt like it was this unique thing on an island, and now it's kind of just another sports blog company, that is by someone's design, and it was a pretty bad idea.
As a 7-year Pro Football Focus employee starting in 2014, I'll reserve some comment here, but I'll just say it.
Yeah, I'll do the talking for that one.
There's been a lot of reporting and a lot of commentary on PFF from you and a lot of other people, and I haven't seen much that I think is inaccurate or wrong. It's been, I've heard from a lot of employees and seen a lot of stuff myself, and you're not seeing a lot of like made up stuff or stuff that seems to be coming out of right field or just like an ex-employee with an axe to grind. It's pretty much like majority, consensus kind of opinions around the people that work in and around that company. So I agree. It's definitely been sad to see, and I'm kind of curious what the future holds for some of the good people that are still over there that I love the work of, especially Trevor Sikkema holding down the fort there. I only wish the best for him and a lot of the other folks still at PFF. A
lot of people have gone from PFF directly into the league, including Zach Robbins. I mean, just like named above the line coaches and Bobby people Sloan, like Eric Eager in Carolina and all that. Like, it
was a great thing and could still be someday again, but it's not heading in the right direction for sure. My yike of the week is Tyreek Hill, which I'm sure he could make an appearance on this often at times, but he came out in an interview with Kay Adams and said he could beat Olympic gold medal sprinter Noah Lyles in a race. He was a track and field athlete in high school, ran pretty well, but his time in the 60 would have finished 15th in Division I. And I think he's quite a bit of ways underestimating what track speed looks like compared to football speed. Cause like he's run fast even without pads on. People say, well, he runs fast with the pads on. You take the pads off, he can run faster. Like, yeah, it makes a difference, but it doesn't make a gold medalist difference. And I think as long as Noah Lyles doesn't have COVID at the time of racing Tyreek Hill, I don't think that race would go in Cheetah's favor. I think
it probably still would be fine.
Yeah, honestly,
he only lost by like a couple tenths, right? With COVID.
Yeah,
still got the Olympic bronze. Yeah, buddy, this ain't your game, dude. That's the world's fastest man and gets that title now for 4 years. Because just run that around for 4 years. He's beefing with the whole NBA. We don't need the NFL to still be on this. And if I were Tyreek Hill, I would try to start fewer fights of all kinds.
He knows there's a lot of money in saying Noah Lyles' name and starting to get that, conflict is good. And there's no such thing as bad publicity, right? So have that, because they're never going to actually race. So what's the downside in saying, oh, I could beat him? Because it's not going to happen. So might as well say it and get the attention. And I guess it worked, right? We're talking.
I guess, we're talking about it. It's how wide receivers roll. And it's how cornerbacks should roll as well. I need a corner that runs like a 4-2 to be like, let's do it. And let's do this at the Pro Bowl. That'll be it for this episode of the Locked On NFL podcast. Thank you so much for hanging out. Go check out Locked On Fantasy Football. Check out Locked On Bears. Check out Locked On Vikings. We work very hard on those. See you all tomorrow. Thank you all so much for hanging out.